back. ANC Women's League President Bathabile Dlamini is expected in the Johannesburg Magistrate's Court for sentencing today. She was found guilty of perjury last month for lying under oath at a 2017 inquiry into the Sassa grants payment scandal. To give us more insight on what we might expect in court today, we're joined by legal expert Ulrich Roux. Ulrich, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for coming on this morning. I think perhaps as a start, Ulrich, the charge of perjury, which she's now been found guilty of, just explain that to us.
Hi, good morning, Michelle. Thank you for having me. Yes, so perjury is defined as the intentional lying of a person whilst they are under oath. So in other words, if they depose to an affidavit under oath, or if they give testimony under oath, and it is subsequently proven that at the time that they gave that testimony or deposed to that affidavit, that they very well knew that what they were saying was not the truth, and that it is then proven beyond a reasonable doubt that that is the case, then a person is guilty of the crime of perjury. So basically, loosely defined as lying under oath.
Yeah, absolutely. In the case of former Minister Bathabile Dlamini, you know, when the court made this decision and came to a guilty verdict on the charge of perjury, might that have been mitigated if I was before the court and I made an admission and said, yes, I didn't tell the full truth and I'm sorry for that?
Yes, definitely. You know, our judicial system is geared towards a person being rehabilitated in the event that they committed a crime. So in her instance, if she was faced with this charge and she was aware of all the evidence against her and that, you know, it could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she did commit the crime of perjury, and she took the court into her confidence and she said, yes, I made a mistake, I plead guilty to this charge, the court would definitely have seen that as a mitigating circumstance. Instead of doing that, however, she pleaded not guilty to the charge against her, and she tried to mislead the court once again by saying that she was telling the truth, in fact, when she was testifying at the Constitutional Court inquiry, and the court yet again found that she was not being truthful and that the state had in fact proven their case against her beyond a reasonable doubt. Interestingly as well, she chose not to testify during her trial in this matter, and you know, our courts are clear that if a person is in fact not guilty of a crime that they are being charged with, then they must show that to the court, and they must prove to the court, well, these are the circumstances, this is my version, I did not commit this crime, and accordingly the court must acquit me. She elected not to do that, and it will definitely be seen as an aggravating circumstance that she did not take the court into her confidence and that she tried to mislead the court once again.
I mean, can we put that blame on the door of her legal team? Might it have been bad legal advice in terms of that decision not to take the stand? Having said that, though, there's only so much a legal team can do when their client has its own, you know, way of wanting to proceed with a matter.
Yes, remember that we as legal representatives always make clear that we are creatures of instruction, and we are instructed by our clients as to how we must act on their behalf. Obviously, she would have been advised as to what the possibilities are and what her options are, but she would have been made very well aware of the fact that if she did not testify, what implications that would hold. Having said that, you know, it would have been within her powers at any given time to say to a legal representative that, you know, I want to state my case, I want to show to the court that I'm in fact not guilty of this crime, but she elected not to do so. So at the end of the day, and our courts are also clear on this, that even though you are represented by a legal representative, you as the accused person will still fall, you know, by the wayside if you do not if you are not truthful and honest with the court.
So to sentencing today, everything that you've explained, Ulrich, in terms of the court coming to that guilty decision on the charge of perjury, those aggravating factors, including not taking the stand and then continuing to mislead the court, might that also play a role today in how the court decides to proceed with sentencing?
Yes, there are three factors that the court considers when sentencing a person after they've been convicted of a crime. The first is the personal circumstances of the accused. The second is the severity of the offence. And the third is the interest of society. What message is being sent out to society by the sentence that the court is handed down? Those three factors are all considered by the court, and they are blended with a measure of mercy in order to reach an adequate sentence. So what the court will do is it will consider, her personal circumstances. She was at pains to show to the court that she's an elderly citizen. She's got dependents who are dependent upon her, and that should she be sentenced to jail, then those dependents will suffer financially and suffer severe financial prejudice. Combined with the fact that when she was convicted of the crime of perjury, and at the time that she committed the crime, she was a public servant. She was a member of parliament, and the state made it clear that a clear message must be sent out to society that even members of parliament are not beyond reproach, and that if they do commit a crime, then they should be dealt with sufficiently by our judicial system and by the courts.
Yeah.
And thirdly is the message that is being sent out to society. We have unfortunately seen a number of instances where our leaders in this country and where members of parliament have not acted in a proper manner. And in my opinion, it is time that our courts start sending out that clear message that when you are elected as a leader of this country, you should be setting the example. You should be a person who is beyond reproach, and you should be acting in an honest manner at all times. Bathabile Dlamini has been found not to have done that, and I think that it will count as a very aggravating circumstance. That as well, coupled with the fact that she has a previous conviction of a fraud in 2006 in a dishonesty-related matter, certainly, counts as an aggravating circumstance. And in my opinion, jail time is a real possibility to be handed down today.
Well, that, as you say, is what the state is asking for. Her defense is, of course, asking for something like a fine to come into play in sentencing today. Typically, what would be a custodial sentence for a charge of perjury?
One could see it as being a short period of imprisonment coupled with quite a lengthy suspended sentence. And the purpose of a suspended sentence is that it should act as a deterring factor. It should be something that hangs over the convicted person's head to prevent him from committing any further crimes, not only during the period of suspension, but subsequently too as well. Just in terms of our law, the conviction of perjury does not carry a minimum sentence. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the court cannot be prescribed to by statute as to what the sentence should be. The court should take all of the factors into consideration. But yes, I do think that there is a possibility of a period of imprisonment, of 1 or 2 years, with a lengthy suspended sentence also hanging over her head.
Ulrich Roux, as always, a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for giving us some legal clarity around all of those issues. Bathabile Dlamini said to be sentenced in the Johannesburg Magistrate's Court today. Just some context for you there. Speaking on the sidelines of the National Union of Mine Workers National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa was pressed on the issue of the ANC's failure to enforce its step-aside rule after Bathabile Dlamini was convicted of perjury by the regional court in Johannesburg. The President's response to that, and this is a quote, "The decision is that the officials are going to meet with Bathabile Dlamini, and that is a process. We are a process-driven organization, whether you like it or not."